Okay, now we're going to be going over some entity commands. So if you've played around with entities or tried to use them before, you might have noticed that they can get very complicated and very tedious very quickly. So hopefully these commands will help make your life a lot easier. So the first one I want to go over is entFind. Alright, so this is an example map called Avaros, and it has all of the entities already placed, so we're going to be using it as an example. Now say we want to find all of one entity. So for this example, let's go ahead and find all of the rifle rounds in the map. The command is /entFind, one word, and then space, and then the name of the entity, so rifle rounds. That's going to select all of the rifle rounds within the map. Alright, so you can verify that down in the left hand corner. You can see it says rifle rounds and then a bunch of zeros, those are the values. And then a little bit further to the right, you can see that it says 6 selected. So that tells us there are 6 rifle rounds in the map. So that's pretty helpful if you ever want to find out how many of a certain entity are in your map. Now these zeros, those are the values for item pickups. There are no values usually. So those are just going to be all zeros. We don't have to worry about those. Alright, so now that we have all of them selected, say we want to change them all at once. So we want to change all the rifle rounds to like grenades or something. Now, what we're going to want to do is just go ahead and scroll. Once we have them all selected, it's as simple as that. However, you can tell here, or you can see here, that we have a white cube on geometry. Alright, so our selection is actually selecting this geometry. Even though we have all of the rifle rounds highlighted, we still have this geometry selected. So if we go ahead and scroll, it is actually going to scroll the geometry selection, and we don't want that, so let's go ahead and undo and recalculate. So to avoid that, what we want to do first is actually select one of the entities. Alright, so now you can see we have the entity selected. There's no white selection on any geometry except for our default cursor here. And then we can go ahead and re-enter the command. And now once we have all of them selected, we can go ahead and scroll and we can change all of the rifle rounds at once. Alright, let's leave those on rifle rounds for now. Now you can go a little further with the entFind command. Now say we want to find all of the light entities within this selection. Okay, so if we type /entFind and then space and then light, that would select all of the lights within the map. Now if we don't want to select all of them, we just want to select some within our selection, we would do entFind inCell, all one word, so inCell short for in selection, and then space and then the name of the entity, and you can see that selects all the lights within our selection. Now if we want to go ahead and change the values of these lights, lights are an entity with multiple values. Unlike the weapon pickups, which have no values, you can just go ahead and scroll and change those all, no problem. Now because we have lights of all different sizes and colors in the selection here, if we go ahead and hold 1, 2, 3, or 4 and scroll to change the values, it is going to reset all of the lights to the same value as the first entity that was automatically selected when we entered the entFind inCell command. So let's show you what that means. Let's hold down 1 and scroll to change the radius, because the first value of a light entity is the radius, or the size, these big circles here. So let's go ahead and do that, and you can see it resets all of the lights to the same value. And for most cases you're not going to want that. So this is where we get into the command /entProperty. So when you hold down 1 and scroll, or 1, 2, 3, or 4 and scroll, what it's doing is using a command called entProperty. So let's go ahead and type this out just to show you what it does and get a little more in depth into it. /entProperty space. Now this is where it's going to get a little tricky. The first value of the entity is going to be slot 0. The second value is going to be slot 1, and so on and so forth. So the first value, what I mean by that is in the bottom left hand corner, you can see we have the light selected. That 20 is the first value, and the first value of a light is the radius. So the radius is 20. Now if we were to if we wanted to change the radius, we're going to go ahead and add the slot number, so 0 for the first slot, and then space, and then the next value that comes after this end property command is going to be the increase or the decrease that we want to apply. So a positive number like 10 would increase the radius by 10. If we wanted to decrease it, we would use a negative value, so negative 10. And what that is going to do is decrease the radius by 10. So let's hit enter and apply that. And you can see it does the same thing as if we held 1 and scrolled. It resets all of the radiuses to the same value. And like I mentioned, most times you don't want that. So the way around that is to use the ent loop command. Okay, so /ent loop space, and then we're going to use these little brackets, these square brackets, and inside the bracket we are going to add our ent property command space, and let's go ahead and change the color values. So just to switch it up to get a better example, let's change the red value, which would be the first value. Red, green, blue. Okay, not the first. The first value would be the radius. I'm sorry. The second value would be red, and then the third green, fourth blue. So let's go ahead and change the red, which is the second value. So that would be the slot 1. All right, because the first value is slot 0, second is slot 1. So let's add a 1. And let's increase the red value by 100 and make all of these lights a little bit redder, while still keeping their original values. So what I mean by that is the green lights that you can see there are going to stay a little bit green but have a lot more red now, and all these pale orange yellow lights are going to keep their pale color but add a lot more red. Alright, so let's add the other bracket here and hit enter. And you can see now those green lights became a little yellow and the pale lights became pretty red. Okay, so that is what that ent loop command does. Let's bring that up again. The ent loop command makes sure that all of the original values stay the same, and then it goes ahead and adds the end property values. Okay, so just keep that in mind when you want to change multiple values at once, because that can save a lot of time. Instead of going in here and changing all of the values, actually for this room here, I wanted to change all these were all these pale lights down in here, all these orangish lights, and I wanted to change this room to a green room. So I had to go ahead and change some of the color values, but when I tried to do that, it changed all of the radiuses and made them all this small 20 value. So even these larger lights became a 20, and I ran into some problems here, so I had to use this ent loop command. Okay, so that's where it comes. That's where it becomes pretty useful. All right, next we have the ent copy and ent paste commands. So let's go ahead and select our entities within the selection again. So /ent find in cell light. Okay, so now say we want to copy these lights, this exact light pattern and these exact light entities, and paste them somewhere else. Say we have like a similar area but different colored textures or something, and we don't want to select the geometry and the textures, we just want to copy the entities. If we go ahead and hit C, which is copy, that is going to copy all of the geometry. So let's go ahead and paste this up here. We can see what that means. Alright, it copied everything. Now if we just want the the light entities, let's go ahead and add our command again. We are going to want to use /ent copy, and this is only going to copy the entities. And then when we go ahead and paste, now if we just hit V for paste, it is still going to paste the last whatever we selected last with regular copy. Alright, so we're going to have to use /ent paste. And that's going to paste just the entities. Okay. another problem you're going to run into when using ent copy and ent paste. Now say I want to take this is a free-for-all map. Say I want to take this entire map, copy it and paste it over here, and rotate this side so they match up again in the middle, and I want to make it a capture the flag map. Now let's go ahead and try that. So let's do ent find in cell. Alright, and let's just leave it at that command. We're not going to specify any entity because we want to copy all of them. So let's go ahead and hit C for copy, because we want to copy all of the geometry as well as the entities. And let's paste it over here. Now obviously this is not how we want our map to be. We want to flip this side over here so it matches up. So we're going to flip this way, and then we're going to flip this way. Now you can tell that the entities did not flip with the regular flip command. Okay, for whatever reason the engine just does not flip the entities with the geometry. So we can do one of two things. We can either let's go ahead and delete this and repaste. Okay, we can either select the top here, and we can hold R and rotate, because the entities will follow with a regular rotate command. Or if we want to use the flip command, let's go ahead and flip the geometry. Now we want to flip the entities so they line up with the geometry where we place them. We're going to use the ent flip command, one word. So let's flip it that way, and then let's flip it this way as well. And let's go ahead and fix the sky texture ceiling real quick so we don't mess up the lights. Select the sky texture, and let's go ahead and calculate and make sure we did all of this correctly. Okay, so now we see we have all the lights in place, we have all the entities in place, all the pickups and everything on both sides. So now it is a successful capture the flag map. Okay, one last thing is the ent set command. So if we go ahead and select any entity, let's select this light. Now say I want to increase this blue value, so in the bottom left, this light is 150 radius with color values 125, 170. Say I want to change that 70 value and make this light a lot more blue. I can hold down 4 and scroll all the way up as far as I want, but if I want to save some time and I don't want to scroll, I can hit the period key on your keyboard, and that's going to bring up the ent set command automatically, and then the rest of the values for whatever you have selected automatically. Okay, and then you can go in here and manually edit. So I can go ahead and change this 70 to a 250. Okay, and then hit enter, and then it's going to change that value instead of scrolling and taking up a lot of time. Now you can see that we definitely changed that entity, that blue value.